Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now. I'm Myra Ansari. So today we are taking some time and talking with the local Better Business Bureau. My friend Whitney Atkins is giving us some advice on how to protect yourself from identity theft. If you've been a victim of identity theft, I am so sorry. I know that's one of the worst things to go through. Please feel free to share your experience in the comments. Drop me some details about what happened to you, what that was like. Would love to hear your stories here. Whitney, identity theft is so common now. Tell me how often people are becoming victims and what that's like.
Yes, you're correct. Unfortunately, it's probably one of the top scam types of scams that we see reported to BBB. I don't have exact numbers, but I would say just anecdotally, at least weekly, we see at least a couple reports. Not necessarily where someone became a victim, but where they encountered an attempted identity theft scam. So it's very prevalent, and it can take on many forms, unfortunately.
How do most people find out that they're a victim to identity theft? At what point does the red flag go up?
So that's the kind of unfortunate part, Myra, is that it's not immediate. A lot of times when folks ask us about, they'll ask us around major events if we're seeing reports of identity theft, and our answer is, not yet, because it takes time for folks to realize. It may not be until they go to open a credit card account, or they're buying a new home, or doing something that involves a credit check, and then they realize, oh my gosh, there have been accounts opened in my name that I never opened. So that's one way that folks find out down the road. That there's just a litany of ways, but the unfortunate part is it's rare that you find out almost immediately unless you are proactively checking your credit report and things like that. You may not know for several weeks or even months that your identity has been stolen, which can make it, that much harder to clean up and then protect yourself again.
What information do these bad actors need to steal your information? It's pretty much the basics, right?
A lot of times it's the basics. It's a combination of your name and your social security number. Certainly, any type of financial records, things that we stress. Don't give out readily. When you're being asked to, you really want to question, why are you being asked to give out your personal information? You really want to protect that as much as possible, especially things like your social security number, things that are tied directly to you, or your family members who are dependent on you, things like that. Please be very cautious with them. And again, when you have, whether it's a website or someone on the phone asking you for that information, proceed with extreme caution. Make sure you know who you are dealing with and why they need that information.
Some of this information, people ask for, I don't know. I mean, so many times we give out our social security number and don't think of it, or we think, oh, the last 4 digits of your social security number. I mean, can even that be dangerous?
Not necessarily. It's typically when we're giving out the whole number that we, want folks to hit pause. And you're right, there are some cases where that number is legitimately needed. And in those instances, we tell folks, make sure that the website you're on is legitimate. If it's, you're a healthcare provider, a bank, or whatever the case may be, or, if you're applying for a credit card, yes, you're going to need that number. But again, make sure that you're on the website itself. I really try to push folks not to click on third-party links, third-party ads. Certainly, please don't click on links that you receive unsolicited in a text message. These are not the ways that legitimate organizations are going to be contacting you to ask for your personal information. So as long as you are sure that you are on the correct website, you're interacting with a trusted source, then you can proceed with that information. But again, be very cautious.
Talk to me about the path of destruction that's kind of left behind when someone steals your identity. What does that do to that victim?
It's frustrating because it's such a wide web of destruction. Firstly, it messes with your credit score, which is used, as we know, in a lot of ways. Whether you need a loan, you're buying a house or a car, you're taking out another credit card. We want that number to be good, and we want it to be accurate. But unfortunately, when your identity is stolen, one of the first things that we see scammers do is start to open accounts in in a victim's name, which, depending on how they are used, can really tank their credit score quickly without them even realizing it's happened. So, we've seen that. We, especially, with social media being so prevalent, we've even seen cases where folks' identities are stolen, their online identity is stolen in order to perpetuate a scam further. So if you, Myra, think you're interacting with me and you trust me, you might be more willing to give out personal information when in fact it's a scammer who has stolen my identity. So it can happen online, it can happen, via snail mail. There's just a lot of ways where your identity it's going to be very valuable to folks who want to use it for their own reasons.
So what do you do when you find out, okay, I am now a victim of this horrible thing? Who do you call? What do you do? Where do you start?
I know first of all, take a deep breath, because I know it's very scary and frustrating, but there are a number of steps you can take. First of all, contact your credit card, any company that you have a credit card with, contact the credit bureaus. You're likely going to want to put a freeze on your credit profile so that no other accounts can be opened in your name until that freeze is lifted. Contact your bank. They will likely want to reissue a debit card, and your credit card companies are going to close your account and reissue you new cards. So you want to contact those folks first, anyone who you interact with for financial reasons. And then reach out to organizations like us. Let us at BBB know. We can provide you with even more information, and we can anonymously report the scam that you've interacted with. So your information won't be out there on our site, but we can at least warn others of the type of ID theft scam you've encountered, and hopefully prevent others from falling victim as well.
Do you go to the police? I don't know if that's a silly question.
It really depends on the type of identity theft scam. So no, it's not a silly question. You can file a police report. Unfortunately, a lot of these scammers are not, now some may be, but a lot are not local. Some may not even be in the same country as us. So as far as whether or not they're going to get caught, I can't promise you that. And it's often a wide network of scammers who are behind this. But start first with protecting your information and going from there, and taking the steps that are suggested you take by your bank, by your credit card companies. Because they, unfortunately, they've seen this a lot, and they know what to do to protect you moving forward, so that down the line you're not a victim further.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more, Whitney, about protecting ourselves. So hopefully we can do proactive things so we don't become victims. What are some of those things?
Yes. So number one, I've touched on already. Be very cautious about who you're giving your information out to. If it's an unsolicited phone call, if it's an unsolicited text message, don't give your information out. Instead, if you think that the person may be with a legitimate organization, hang up and contact that organization directly. Just don't give out any personal information or financial information over a call that you didn't initiate, that you can't be sure of who's on the other end. Same goes with websites. Again, don't click on third-party links or third-party ads. Go straight to the website that you're trying to reach, so that you know that you're on a trusted, secure site, and your information isn't going elsewhere. A lot of times, what we see happen with these, I get asked, what's the purpose of the text message scams? And it's phishing. They're phishing for your identity. When they get you to click on a link, the next step is usually to fill out a survey or fill out information that you may have won something. And it's just a sneaky way for them to get things like your full name, your social security, possibly your credit card information. So yes, be very wary of that. And then when it comes to things that are offline, right? So snail mail is still very much a part of our lives, which means we're getting mail that has our personal information on it, may have, our bank account numbers or things like that on it. When you get that type of mail, I know that temptation is just to, recycle it or, tear it up yourself and recycle it, but really you want to, as much as possible, shred that mail so that it cannot be used against you. So we want to be sure we're shredding our mail, and then be mindful of the electronics that you own or maybe don't use anymore, because a lot of those electronics, still store our data on them. So if you're like my husband and you work in video production or IT, you've probably got a bunch of old laptops that you don't use anymore. That just piled up. You can't just throw those things away, because in the wrong hands, unfortunately, scammers and hackers can get in there and pull the data off of those devices. So you want to make sure that you're recycling those with reputable companies, shredding your documents so that the things that you physically have but no longer need, you can be sure that scammers aren't going to get a hold of them and steal your identity that way as well.
So Lisa Harlow is joining us via Facebook, and she wants to know, what date is the shredding event? Lisa, that is a great question, because that is also the point of why we're doing this. The Better Business Bureau is having a big shredding event where you can take all that stuff and they'll take care of it for you. So Whitney, talk to us about all the details of that.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa, for your question. Our shred event is actually coming up this Saturday, 2 days from today, September 28th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're going to be on site at RML Shredding. RML Shredding is actually the company that we've used for years to securely shred documents, and they're always with us at our shred events. So we'll be on site with them. They'll be taking care of all the paper. And then we're also teaming up again with River Metals Recycling, who will take care of recycling all of your electronics that you bring us. Now, there are some limitations. If you visit our site, bbb.org, or follow us on Facebook, you can see exactly what you can and can't recycle with us. But the list is pretty extensive. So we're going to be able to take a lot of things off folks' hands. And I know the weather is looking a little rainy on Saturday.
Yeah.
The thing I like to tell folks is, you don't have to get out of your car.
That's great.
Let us stand in the rain. We'll take care of it. Just pop your trunk or open your doors wherever you have the materials in your car, and we'll take them out for you. And you can, some folks, when they come, they like to watch the documents being shredded.
They want to witness it, and that's okay, right? That's all right.
You can absolutely hang out and watch it happening, or if you need to be on your way, you can be on your way. But yes, that is this Saturday, September 28th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at RML Shredding.
Okay. And Lisa, and for anybody else who's interested in more information, I've put a link to our local Better Business Bureau's website in this stream. Click on it. You will see all of that information there. Whitney, is this free? Do people have to pay? How does this work?
This is 100% free. It's an annual event that we do to help take care of our consumers. Now, we will have BBB folks on site collecting donations if you are able, and if you feel like donating a few dollars, I can tell you that all of that money just goes straight back to our consumer education fund, which allows us to do events like this and keep them free to the public, as well as other education programs like our talks to senior citizens and high school seniors, our military program. So if you feel so inclined, we're happy to take a donation of any size, but it's absolutely not necessary.
Okay. Lisa, thank you so much for your question. That was a great question. That's what we want. We want folks to interact with us, ask us questions, because you now have a connection to the BBB. You can ask those questions directly through this live event that we're doing right now. Whitney, I know a lot of folks, when they find out that they are victims to scams, victims to identity theft, oftentimes they think, that's not going to happen to me. That just happens once in a while. And there's a certain demographic that usually falls victim to this sort of thing. We know that that is not the case. Because think about it. How often are we so used to filling out your name, your address, your phone number, email address, blah, 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 and we put it all in something, it goes out, we don't even think about it, right?
Correct. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. We have folks, ask us when we give presentations, how do folks fall for these scams? And, they're kind of asking it, and you can tell they're thinking it wouldn't happen to me. But you're right. We see all demographics reporting scams. So I always say, I don't care how young or old you are, how tech savvy you are, how educated you are, or where you grew up. None of that matters because anyone can fall victim to a scam for the reason that you said, as well as others. We get so used to filling out our information that we almost go on, autopilot, and we stop, thinking logically. It's another form to fill out, another site to enter information on. And that's what scammers, that's part of what they rely on. They rely on us to be moving quickly, to not stop and think, to be in that autopilot mode. Which is honestly how they get a lot of their victims.
Yeah.
It seemed legitimate. It seemed like an everyday thing. And next thing you know, your identity's been stolen.
Yeah. And I always say when we do these interviews, Whitney, the people on the other end, they do not care about you. This is their full-time job to take advantage of us. And what they're after is just one thing, and that's money. That's our identity. And they do not care about the damage left behind.
No, unfortunately, on one hand, it's not personal. They don't necessarily, dislike you, but you're right. That means they don't care about you. They don't care. Unfortunately, we have victims who were already hard hit, whether it was from a national weather tragedy, or, we see folks who are already on a limited income who are scammed. And you're right. The scammers don't care about any of that. They're after your information because they can use that to further other scams or to open accounts. And they're after your finances as much as they can get. It's a numbers game to them. They're going to keep trying until they get a victim on the other end. And then they're going to keep going after that victim until they can't get anything more out of them.
Yeah, it's a violating feeling, of course, whether it's, a couple of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. In our newsroom, we get calls all the time about someone unfortunately falling victim. And it doesn't matter what the dollar amount is, right? Because we all work hard for our money and it's ours. So it's definitely a violating feeling, and it's understanding why people get hurt and angry, and life is disrupted for that time period, for sure.
Yes. We always tell folks preemptively, if this happens to you, please don't be embarrassed, which I know can feel very hard, but just know that it happens to folks of all different backgrounds and ages. So please don't be embarrassed, because when you get embarrassed, it often means you don't want to tell anyone. And that's also what these scammers rely on. They rely on victims being too embarrassed to speak up, which just means that less people become aware of the scam. So please, if it happens to you, number one, contact your credit bureau and your bank and your credit card companies. And then please reach out to organizations like us, because we want to help you and we want to share what's happened to you. Again, we're not naming victims here, but we are going to be able to get the word out so that other folks don't fall prey. It's really, I always say, it's a little cheesy, but I say it's a noble thing when you as a victim share what happened to you, because you're doing it to protect other people.
Absolutely, 100%. Whitney, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want folks to know about?
I would just add one more thing, Myra. This, I was just talking to a colleague about this the other day. I know you have young children. I have a young child. So I would just like to remind the parents and grandparents out there, you're probably not thinking about this just yet because, my son's 5. He's not opening a credit card right now. But if someone were to steal his identity, again, children aren't, immune from this type of thing either. So remember that as you're gathering documents to shred, or, as protective as you are of your own social security number, you have to be that way for your child as well. Until they're old enough to take care of themselves in that sense, we've got to be the watchdogs for them as well.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that because oftentimes, right, there's no warning signs that your child's identity is stolen until they're of age to get a credit card. And then years and years of damage has been done. And that's terrible. Whitney, give me the details one more time about your shred event. Want to leave with that note so people know about that. If they're just joining us into this stream, it's happening this Saturday.
Correct. Thank you. It is happening this Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you can stop by anytime during those hours. It is at RML Shredding, and you'll find the address for RML Shredding on our website and our Facebook page. Folks can bring up to 4 big boxes of documents that they want to shred. And you can also bring electronics, things like old laptops, old cell phones that you want to be securely recycled as well. So it's a great time to clean out that junk, clean out that clutter that you've been eyeing for a while that's getting on your nerves, but you can't just toss it in the trash can. Bring it to us and know that you are taking those proactive steps to protect your identity.
Perfect. Whitney, thank you so much for all that you do. Always so enjoyable to talk to you. Give great information to our folks. Again, thank you guys for joining us here on this stream. Thank you, Lisa, for asking a question. You did great today. And that's what we were hoping for folks to get engaged with us today. So thanks so much for joining us. Again, I've got this link to the Better Business Bureau here at the bottom of the stream. I'm Myra Ansari. I'll see you later here on Wave News. Have a great day.